Have you ever considered how the violence of the Holocaust began? The event of Kristallnacht was one of the first terrible, widespread violence against the Jews. The name of Kristallnacht symbolizes Jewish existence in Germany, and it was what ultimately led to the deaths of 6 million Jews. Kristallnacht was a series of violent pogroms against the Jews. It took place on November 9th and 10th, 1938, all across Nazi Germany. It was named for all of the Jewish stores which had their windows smashed. It was also known as the Night of Broken Glass, Kristallnacht, or Kristallnacht. What early persecutions and events led up to Kristallnacht? What was all entailed in Kristallnacht, and what happened after Kristallnacht, and how did it lead to the rest of the Holocaust, and why? Prior to the events of Kristallnacht, there were several persecutions of the Jews. These early persecutions made the events of Kristallnacht possible. There were many steps taken by the Nazis which restricted the Jewish people from several aspects of life. These early persecutions emerged very gradually. In August of 1984, President von Hindenburg died, and Adolf Hitler declared himself the Chancellor and the Führer of the German people and the German right. Many Jews were frightened by Hitler's growing power, but the majority of them chose to stay in Germany because it was their home. None of them anticipated what was to come. In the fall of 1935, the Nuremberg Laws, a series of anti-Semitic laws, were passed. These laws took away many of the rights of the Jews, and the purpose of them was to make the Jews inferior. Hitler also used propaganda to control what the people heard. On October 27th and 28th, the Polish Jews who had been living in Germany were deported. These 4 acts and many of the early persecutions of the Jews are what enabled the events of Kristallnacht. On November 7th, Herschel Greenspan, a young Polish Jewish refugee, walked into the German embassy in Paris and he requested to see the ambassador. He had been planning to shoot the ambassador, but when he was told that the ambassador was away, he walked out into the hall, drew his pistol, and shot Ernst von Rath, a minor German official. Von Rath died 2 days later, and his assassination is what triggered the Kristallnacht pogroms. When Adolf Hitler heard of the assassination, he knew he should use it as an excuse to terrorize the Jews. Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels announced that the Führer has decided that demonstrations should not be prepared or organized by the party, but insofar as they erupt spontaneously, they are not to be hampered. These words appear to have been taken as a command for unleashing the violence. After Kristallnacht, it was reported that 267 synagogues were burnt, and of those, 177 were completely destroyed. 7,500 businesses were destroyed, and 91 Jews were killed. 25,000 Jews were taken to concentration camps during and shortly after Kristallnacht. Immediately following Kristallnacht, many more laws were enacted restricting the Jews and depriving them of more rights. Much more violence continued against the Jews in concentration camps. Kristallnacht was the first of the widespread violence against the Jews. The success of this one event is what enabled continued violence in the Holocaust. Following Kristallnacht, many people did nothing. In his article entitled The Lessons of Kristallnacht, Jeffrey Billman stated, "The world shrugged and the Holocaust ensued." If more people would have stood up against what was happening, the Holocaust would have not had the same tragic ending. 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, and it began with the event of Kristallnacht. If you had been there, what would you have done? Would you have stood silently by and watched, or would you have done something to change what happened?